Welcome to another edition of Ask Isaiah. I'm Isaiah Rhodes. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube page. On this particular episode, we're going to break down the two feature games from last night between the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Denver Nuggets, and the New Orleans Pelicans and Portland Trailblazers, while also giving you a feature of the premier matchup tonight between the Milwaukee Bucks and Philadelphia 76ers. So before we get into tonight's matchup, let's lock in on two pretty good games last night, especially between the Oklahoma City Thunder and Denver Nuggets. The Thunder defeated the Nuggets 113 to 101. It was really a back and forth tit for tat game until the final 5 minutes, in which the Thunder seemed to really take over ever since, Chris Paul has really been reintegrated into their organization. If you look at Chris Paul over the last couple of years, no one's ever questioned his ability or his IQ. It was more so about durability. In 2018 and 2019, he played 58 games each, and his durability really affected the Rockets championship window when he went down with a hamstring injury, and arguably one of the toughest series we've seen over the last decade or so between the Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets. So when Oklahoma City traded Russell Westbrook, obviously their all-world point guard, for the first 11 years of his career and really the first 11 years of their existence in Oklahoma City, um, it, it was really a shift in culture and how the two point guards really affected the game. Westbrook is more of an explosive point guard, while Chris Paul is a tactician. Westbrook more durable, but sometimes his decision making came into question at certain times. With Chris Paul, you never really have to worry about his decision making. It's more so about him actually being on the floor. And I think his impact as a mentor on Shea Gilgis Alexander and Dennis Schroeder has really pushed this particular team. They're 36 and 22 so far this. Excuse me, 34 and 22 so far this season. Chris Paul has played 55 of the 56 games. He's affected their efficiency, and although he's not as explosive as Westbrook, as I mentioned, obviously Westbrook averaging a triple double over the previous 3 seasons. Just really his energy is very different from Chris. Chris is more poised. They're ultimate competitors, both of them. But I think Chris Paul is more of an extension of head coach Billy Donovan and his philosophy, more so about getting the right shot on a more consistent basis than Westbrook. It is more about getting a shot regardless of the situation. It's very difficult styles to defend against regardless, but I think for this particular unit and how young they are, really just trying to execute regardless of, personnel. I think Chris Paul is the perfect point guard for this situation. And when you have a game against the second best team in the West in the Denver Nuggets on a premier stage at home, you want to put forth your best performance. And I think last night, Chris Paul did that in volume. Last night, he had 29 points, shot 11 of 17 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three-point range. And this season, his numbers are down in terms of assists. He's very prolific in terms of being an assist man. He averages 9.5 for his career. But this season, he's only averaging 6.6. He's delegating a lot of the facilitating responsibilities to Shea Gilgis Alexander and Dennis Schroeder in kind. But that three guard rotation between the three has really balanced this unit. Dennis Schroeder's come off the bench. He's arguably in conversation for six man of the year this year, and he was last year with Russell Westbrook. But I think this year he's been more well rounded and consistent. This year he's averaging just over 19 points per game, but shooting very efficient from the floor, 47% from the floor, a career high for him. He's shooting 38% from three. Shea Gilgis Alexander averaging 19 points as well, averaging 6.6 rebounds, 3.3 assists. This is all in complement to a Chris Paul who's averaging 7.5 points per game, 7.5 points, 17.5 points per game, 6.6 assists. For Chris Paul to take the reins back in terms of just letting those young guards really carry the game in the early parts of the game and come on in the latter parts of the game. That's exactly what Billy Donovan wants. He's making sure that this unit, obviously with Danilo Gallinari coming over in a trade as well with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Clippers, he's provided shooting. You still have the consistent Steven Adams in terms of energy and just very providing a lot of physicality. But with Steven, especially now with Chris, he doesn't have to worry about uh, battling for those offensive rebounds as much. When you're playing with a Russell Westbrook, he's more inefficient, very prolific, but very inefficient. With Chris, he's getting efficient shots all the way around, and they're just figuring out how to close out games. Against Denver last night, as I mentioned, it was a tit for tat game. Over the final 5 minutes of the game, Oklahoma City just went into foxhole mode and outscored Denver 18-9 in the final 5 minutes, and that's really been a microcosm of what Oklahoma City has done this season. They are a league best plus 27 in net rating in 38 games this season, in which games have come down to 5 points, a 5 point margin in the final 5 minutes. So that just goes to show you the impact of a Chris Paul. And Chris Paul is leading the league in crunch time points and clutch points this season. He came into last night's game with 128 points in the clutch. So, although Chris, his numbers aren't as prolific as, let's say, Luka Doncic, or I mentioned Westbrook, or Trae Young, or Damian Lillard, his impact is felt on a team that can be very scary in terms of playoff matchup. And these two teams can play each other in the playoffs if things fall a certain way. I mentioned Denver being second in the West, but if things go a certain way, they might fall to 3 and play an Oklahoma City team that is in a 6th spot. And I mentioned Chris Paul's experience and how he's impacted the squad because he's such a high IQ player and he can get the most out of everything around him. If this team gets clicking on all cylinders, especially at home, they can scare a Denver team, a Houston team, or whoever might fall into their clutches in a matchup. Denver, they're a team that has played extremely well in the clutch as well. Although they were outscored 18-9 in the clutch this season, they're 25-13 in games in which have come down to a 5 point deficit in the clutch as well in the last 5 minutes of a game. So for them to be led by Nikola Jokic, who had an exceptional game last night, he had 32 points. He actually scored the first 11. He actually scored 11 of the first 13 points for Denver last night, really trying to get them in a groove offensively. But just, I mentioned Chris Paul's prowess to really run the game and figure out how to get the right shot. Last night, Denver just couldn't find an answer for that 3-guard lineup. And even with Dennis Schroeder being somewhat limited with the tweaked ankle, they still figured out how to finish games and to finish last night's game. And for them to win on a big stage for everyone to watch, I think it was a great, great performance for not only Chris Paul, but Oklahoma City, who is by and large the surprise of the league so far. But that was the first game of Friday night, and then you go into the second half of the doubleheader, in which New Orleans, who I mentioned last night, has the easiest schedule the rest of the way. They're led by rookie phenom Zion Williamson, who missed the first 38 games of this season due to a torn meniscus. But since he's come back into the flow of the season, he's been able to really just dominate and play his game at the high level. He's shooting 58% from the floor. That was no different last night. He shot 10 of 17. He's averaging 22 points per game. He stayed on par with that, scoring 25 points last night. He did shoot 5 of 10 from the free throw line, and that's a cause to pause in terms of his game. But outside of that particular flaw, he's just been playing an exceptional game. And as Drew Holiday mentioned last night, he's taking them to another level. They've won 4 of their last 5, and that one loss came to Oklahoma City, in which Zion had 32 points, and it was a close game. So I feel like for how New Orleans has been playing over this last stretch with Zion, they've really been trying to make that playoff push. And with a weak schedule, over the next 20 plus games or so, they should be able to attack that and put themselves in position to make a playoff run. Now, with Portland, they did lose last night. They just weren't able to stop New Orleans outside marksmanship. When you look at what New Orleans was able to do last night, they made 18 three-pointers, shot 53% from three, compared to Portland, who shot 10 of 27 from three. They weren't able to really get anything going. And anytime they did make a run and try to, make it close and make it competitive, New Orleans would just put their foot on the gas and just turn it up. They did get 20 points from Melo last night, and it was good to see that matchup between Zion, the rookie, and Carmelo, who has made a killing in the mid post for the majority of his career. To see those two go back and forth against each other was a great matchup to see. And speaking of Carmelo, Zion is the youngest rookie, the youngest player in NBA history to have 7 consecutive 20-plus point performances. The previous record was held by Carmelo Anthony, who did so his rookie season. So to see Zion and Carmelo really going at each other in that mid-post area as forwards was a great, changing of the guard type of moment, passing of the torch type of thing. Obviously, Zion is still coming into his own. It's only his 11th game played. But to see those two go at each other, it shows the generational divide, but also where the game is going. So that's good to see. Again, New Orleans was able to secure another victory. They play Golden State on Sunday, which Golden State has struggled throughout this year to really maintain without Stephen Curry. And New Orleans is able to continue to win. They can keep pace with the San Antonio, who got a huge win last night against Utah, 113-104. They really dominated the entire game. Utah made a run at it towards the end of the game, but San Antonio was able to hold Donovan Mitchell to just 9 points last night, and that helped them secure a victory in terms of them trying to make a playoff push as well. So if New Orleans can continue to win, they can keep pace and probably jump ahead of teams and put themselves in position to be an 8 seed. So that's good to see. Now, for the premium matchup tonight, you got Philadelphia and Milwaukee. Both teams come in with season series tied at 1. Philadelphia got the win on Christmas, while Milwaukee got the win February 6th in Milwaukee. Philadelphia is 26-2 at home compared to a 9-19 record on the road. That is why Philadelphia is 5th in the East. But again, in terms of record, opponents' winning percentage going into the second half of the season, Philadelphia has the easiest road in the final 28 games. They knocked off New Jersey at home to complete their 4th win in a row, but they're trying to stop a 5-game losing streak. And one of those losses came to they're trying to stop a 5-game road losing streak, and one of those losses came to Milwaukee. So to see this particular game in Milwaukee is going to be a litmus test for Philly to see if they've been able to iron out some wrinkles that they've had throughout this season. They made some changes in terms of lineup, adding Al Horford to the bench. Ben Simmons did miss he did miss Thursday's victory against the Nets, but Ben has proven to utilize the lineup when both Al and Embiid have been out interchangeably. So to see how he's been able to apply his game with Al coming off the bench, providing punch for the second unit, Ben and Embiid have been trying to figure out how they can play cohesively. I know there's been a lot of chatter in regards to can both play with each other, and it's worked to a certain degree. For me, I think a lot of it has to do with Embiid missing games more so than their actual chemistry. Obviously, they both play in similar areas, but I think in terms of actually getting wins in the regular season, if Embiid plays more often, Philadelphia would, have a better record. Ben's game took a huge leap when Embiid went out with the hand injury for 9 games. We saw Ben really take over from an offensive standpoint, scoring wise. I'm not sure if he can maintain it or sustain it with Embiid, coming in and taking up obviously a lot of attention. He's an all-world scorer in the post, but I think the aggression shouldn't change. When you go back to the previous matchup with Milwaukee, Ben only had 11 points. He did have 14 rebounds and 9 assists. But if Philadelphia is going to be able to make up for games when Embiid is shooting bad, Ben's offensive performance has to remain aggressive. Against Milwaukee on Christmas, Embiid had 31 points. He had 11 rebounds. He was the best player on the floor. In kind, Giannis shot horrible. He was 8 of 27, only had 18 points. And Milwaukee got outplayed. When you go to the Milwaukee matchup in February, Embiid shot horrible from the floor, 6 of 26 from the floor. He only had 19 points. He had 11 rebounds. But Giannis responded with 36 points, 20 rebounds. And they were able to, negate Embiid's impact. If Embiid has a horrible game or is struggling, Ben has to figure out how to pick it up. One of the things I see also is that at home, Philadelphia shoots much better. If you look at the percentages from Christmas, Philadelphia shot 21 of 44. Everyone was involved. The energy was there. The shooting percentage was similar in February, 18 of 45, but a lot of those threes came in the second half of the game when Philadelphia was already down, and down by so much they had to shoot those threes to get back into the game. To start the game, the energy was down. Although Tobias Harris had 25 points, he has to be more of a consistent shooter if this team is going to be where they need to be going forward. Milwaukee already has their rotations down. They have their formula down. They're going to play through Giannis and set up everyone else. Chris Middleton has been a consistent number 2 over the last couple of years, but you have to really challenge Giannis and really make him become more of a well-rounded scorer if you want to stop Milwaukee. If Giannis is able to get downhill and attack on every level, then Milwaukee's in perfect position to win. They're going to get easy shots, and Giannis at the rim is virtually unstoppable. One of the things that we saw from Philadelphia that had many people wondering, could Milwaukee, play against Philly in a playoff series, is Ben Simmons and Embiid really made it really difficult for Giannis, especially on Christmas. He couldn't get downhill as easily as he would like. You had Embiid in the paint, making all those finishes very difficult. And then you had Ben and Matthias really making it difficult on the perimeter, trying to make him a passer, especially off the dribble. He started turning over the basketball. He had a horrible game on Christmas. But at home in February, he had so much control. He was at ease. And Philadelphia had no way to stop him. So let's see if Philadelphia, who's on somewhat of a roll right now, they've won 4 in a row, albeit all of them at home against somewhat lesser competition outside of the Clippers. If Philadelphia can figure out how to get Embiid started early, a lot of the games that he's come into the fold and played well has come with great action early in the first quarter. He sets the tone, and it makes the game a lot easier for the role players. If he can do that against a Milwaukee team who's exceptional defensively, especially in defending the three-point line, if Philadelphia is able to get those easy baskets for Embiid, then Milwaukee will have to, in kind, try to stop him and collapse on him, which will open up shots for the three-point shooters, Tobias and Furkan Korkmaz, and then those lanes are open up for Ben to play his game. For Milwaukee, they just have to get Giannis going early in terms of just playing his game. He's coming off a dominant performance against Detroit. They went up 70-41 at halftime and just kept going. They won in double digits. They're continuing their role as the best team in the league so far in terms of record. If Giannis plays his game early and gets everyone going, then Milwaukee should be in good position to win. This test is more so about Philadelphia than it is about Milwaukee. I mentioned Philadelphia's horrible road record in comparison to what they do at home. If they're going to be a title contender, they have to win on the road. And right now, they're 5th in the East. They're half game behind Miami. And if they really want to try to make a run at this thing, they probably shouldn't, be a 5th seed. They need home court advantage to really exploit, their strengths and put teams under pressure. You want to get in that 1, 2, or 3 slot, which I think they can. They have a weak schedule going down the stretch. So you want to try to beat one of the 8 teams that you play over 500 in the second half. You get another opportunity at Milwaukee in April. But if you get this win, especially right now, on a Saturday night when everyone is watching, then you'll get much more respect. We'll see how it goes. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Depending on how the game goes, obviously I'm going to be here to break it down. And if Philadelphia wins, I'll be in a better mood. If Milwaukee wins, obviously I got to accept it, but I'll be here to break it down for you guys as well. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in. Remember, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, positive or negative, whatever it is. Let me hear it so I could get better for you guys and continuously come with better content. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Isaiah Rhodes. This is my Ask Isaiah YouTube channel. Spread the word, and I'll be back with much more.